pose. Muy bien, Lara. How's your Ringo? Ringo sits. 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 Yeah, sits. Bruce. Hey, Ringo, no. Bruce sits. Yep. Lucy sits. Sits. Lucy sits. Sits. Sits, Lucy. Sits. Sits. Lucy, don't ignore me. Sits. That's my girl. Vamos. Good morning. So, been a couple days. Lots actually changed. That's why. And I'm actually gonna take a pause from the more of the flat earth sort of stuff, and even what is life thing, just for today, because I've had sort of some epiphanies. But just briefly on the flat earth stuff, there's been quite a few people freaking out about it. The main 2 points, in case you missed them, with those videos were that if you've never looked into it, it's nowhere near as clear-cut and easy thing as you think. Like, I've looked into it for like a couple years now, and I'm still not sure either way. And secondly, the main thing is question everything. That's what I've learned, is nothing we've been told seems to be the way it is. So question everything, and that would include where it is we live and what this universe is and all that kind of stuff. So on my last trip, well, let me start at maybe the beginning a bit. As many of you know, if you've been following me for a number of years, you know all these crazy transformations I've gone through and all that sort of stuff, and how I used to drink a lot, smoke a lot, go out a lot, be pretty crazy. And a lot of that was just, that was the only thing that would kind of, interest me. I was just so unhappy that I'd have to do those sort of things just to, I thought those things were making me happy too, but they weren't. So a couple years ago, I decided to do something about it, as I was getting basically to the point of not wanting to live anymore. And so it was kill myself or fix myself. And obviously I'm still here, so you know which one I tried. And it's gone really well. It's like I think it's been over 2 years now. So it's been quite a, it didn't happen overnight. And it's still not over, but I've had another major breakthrough in the last few days. Like really major, like might be mind-blowing to some people, or you might not even believe it. But because there's some aspects to it that are quite unbelievable, or hard to believe anyway. Anyway, so I started off, tried ayahuasca a few times. Iboga really helped. Tried everything really. I've tried DMT, magic mushrooms, meditation, yoga, exercise, diet change, taken every supplement possible to help with things like depression. Looked into all kinds of different things spirituality wise, tried those out, tried to get closer to things like that, to spirituality. Of course, if you saw my video about religion, I'm not a fan of religion, but I'm a big fan of spirituality. And I wasn't before, so that's all changed the last couple of years. And things don't change overnight. So I've had 2 steps forward, 1 step back, pretty much ongoing for 2 years. And at first the steps back were really hard, but now they don't bother me. Actually, a lot of things don't bother me anymore. So many things don't bother me anymore, which is really good. Because I do actually realize that is how these things go. If you look into it enough, no one ever tries to do these sort of things, transformations on themselves. Well, maybe some do, but most people will have like 1 step back quite often. And one of the first things you learn is not to beat yourself up over it. In fact, it's almost like, I don't want to say it's necessary, because then people who are trying to do these things will go, oh, well, I can totally have a step back. I'm going to have a step back because it's necessary. No, don't think of it that way, but it almost is a thing that you just have to do. Because when you have those steps back, then you get to remember why you're doing all this stuff. And because it is hard. So if you don't remember that, you might kind of forget. And so those steps back are times where you get to re-experience why you're trying to fix all this stuff. So anyway, I had this 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's been going really well, as people know. Quit drinking, quit smoking. Mostly vegan, although I've changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I've eaten some meat, but still intermittent fasting. And I'll get into the diet thing maybe a bit later. But anyway, I'm constantly experimenting. That's sort of the history of my life, is constantly experimenting. To me, life almost is one big experiment, really. And so I'll rarely stick to one exact diet or one exact way of doing things for too long, because quite often I'll be like, well, let's try this and just see what happens, right? So anyway, I've been doing that, a lot of exercise. As I pointed out a few times in the past, realize just the importance of going for a walk in the morning. Just really important. I've been doing 2 walks a day now, which is what a lot of dog owners do. It seems to be the natural order of things, is 1 in the morning, 1 kind of, not at night, but like later in the day. The dogs seem to want to go all the time. That's a good hint that it's just sort of like the way it should be. So I started doing that too. I've started doing 2 coffee enemas a day, 1 in the morning, 1 after at night. I've started doing 2 meditations, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. So, oh, Lucy, Ben. My own driver's gonna drive over my dog. Jenny, Ben. Jenny. Jenny, Ben. Jenny. Don't walk right into the car. Sit. Okay. So that's been a big part of the most recent changes, is like just realizing, like, if it's working so well in the morning, why not do it at night too, sort of a thing. And it really seems to really double or even more the benefits. And I used to think, it's amazing how much time I spend doing this sort of stuff, like not working. But I get so much done when I am working that I can really spend hours and hours and hours. And I do. I must spend 5 or 6 hours a day walking, exercising, meditating, yoga, enemas. What am I missing? It's got to be at least 4 or 5 hours a day. And it's just like no problem. So, and actually it's been great. So I haven't gotten to the point of this video yet, but that's sort of where I've been at. I went on 1 trip, totally went out of my routine and totally went back into my old habits. I went on the next trip, which was to Montana for the Red Pill Expo and Freedom Fest, and played in the World Series of Poker, and stayed mostly in almost all my routine except for diet. And it was really good. And so then I went to Europe recently, and within the first couple of days I kind of really fell off the routine, and I started feeling that depression again. So it was still there, and it's still there, probably even right now, but it's a lot better now, and I'll tell you why. But or it might even be gone. That's how profound the last few days have been for me. But okay, so here's where it gets a little weird. So I'm in Europe and I meet someone there. I was in Serbia. And I meet someone there as sort of like a fan. And he introduced me to someone, and it's like the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. But I haven't actually been that interested in women in a long time. Like I've lost interest in a lot of stuff I used to be interested in. But she was like so beautiful. I was like, whoa. And she was really interesting too. She was like not your normal person at all. I wish she was normal, but she's not. She's very connected, very spiritual, very... She seems almost otherworldly, like she's not really of this world. And it's not just because she's so beautiful, like that's just her aura, her vibe. So we get talking or whatever, and then the night kind of ends. And it's pretty clear that there's nothing going on between the two of us. So I went back to my hotel, and I was a bit depressed. I was like, I actually really liked that girl. Like that's the first time I've even had an interest in a long time in anyone, because she was so amazing. Like it was just, like, it wasn't even just beautiful, but just what she was talking about and everything. So the next night, I go out by myself, and I actually got more depressed. Even had a few drinks. I wasn't getting drunk though, so that was good. So my one step back wasn't bad at all this time at all. And I get a message from her. Jenny, don't walk right into the truck. Jenny, Ben, standing right in front of this truck. Jenny. Oh, he's so stupid. Jenny, Ben. Jenny. Oh God, he's so stupid. That's it. Stupido. Screwed up my DJI Osmo. There we go. We're back. So anyway, so I get a message from her. She's like, come over to my place. And I was like, all right. Because I just found her to be amazing. What else am I going to do? And I go over and we just talk spiritual stuff the whole time. And here's where it gets weird. She goes, after a period of time, she tells me, she's like, God told me I need to help you. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. And she's telling me like how she's that connected, and she doesn't know exactly why, but that's what God said. And so she listens to that. And so we talked about my depression and stuff, and she's like, yeah, I can help you fix that. I know how to fix that. And it came down to, she's like, you don't have gratitude. You don't appreciate what you have. And I was like, sort of my mindset was, well, it's because I'm not happy. Like, so I could have $1 trillion, I could have the most amazing family, the most amazing dogs, but if I'm not happy, what's the point, right? And that goes back to my what's the point sort of video. And she said, no, you're doing it wrong. She says, you don't realize what's going on. And I was like, what? And here's kind of the interesting sort of part of it is, there's no way if I met some guy and he's like, come over to my house, I'm going to tell you some stuff, that I'd go over, right? So I'm going to get to what I think's going on or what happened. It's pretty crazy, but everyone thinks I'm crazy now anyway, because I talked about the flat earth. So. But I think God almost had to send like the most beautiful girl in the world just so I would listen. I guess I'm not very good at listening or accepting. So anyway, nothing happened between the two of us. And so I was a bit depressed about that, obviously, because I was like, whoa. And she's like, well, I have to go to sleep now. I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, I'd like to be with you more. I just enjoy being around you, if anything. It's just, so beautiful, and she's so interesting, and it's just our vibe, our energy, That's a real thing. And so I ended up going back home because after that I was a bit depressed. So I didn't really fully get it. I was like, that was weird. I didn't even really think about it. Because so many things happen in my life that are kind of odd that I don't really even think about it half the time. So I didn't. I just kind of focused on, well, that sucked. I met someone pretty amazing, but nothing really happened between the two of us. And I've been kind of off my routine. I'm feeling depressed. I'm just going to go home. So I did. Flew all the way back to Mexico. But I kept in contact with this person, and she kept telling me some more stuff. She's like, here's what you got to do. She said, you don't love yourself. And I was like, how do you love yourself? I don't even know what that means. And she's like, you'll find it in meditation. And it was over a couple days. And so I was like, okay. Well, I haven't really been meditating too seriously for a while. I just started getting back into it. So, okay, I'm going to give meditation another real shot. Really, focus on it and see if I can get more out of it. So I meditated, and all these epiphanies started coming to me about I don't even know exactly what, but I woke up. Well, not really woke up. It wasn't like I was hypnotized. But I kind of meditated before sleep. I slept. I got up and I meditated some more. So I felt like I'd just gotten up, really. And I had all these sort of epiphanies about life. And I felt closer to my wife at that moment in time. And I started to have some gratitude. And she, of course, noticed it immediately. All of a sudden, I wanted to hug her. I was showing her, affection, which I haven't really done in a long time. If you're not happy with yourself, that's that old saying, but it's true. Then how can you, if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else? And it's kind of true. I love her, but love has many different meanings, and it's not just black or white. And I think I was incapable of fully loving her. Right? So I'm with her, and we start talking. Actually, that's why I haven't done these videos for the last few days, because I've been walking with my wife in the morning, which she's never done in the past. And we spent a lot more time together the last few days, because we're kind of like reconnected. Because of the changes that have happened with me. So she's seen it, and she's like, what's going on? You look happier, you look like you want to just, spend time with me and stuff. And I was like, yeah, hard to explain why, but yeah. So we got talking, and I was talking about some of the changes I felt. And she's funny, because every time I kind of get close to realizing something, she'll tell me it. And I'll be like, why didn't you tell me before? And she's like, you weren't ready before. Like, it's that cut and dry to her. So I started talking. I was like, yeah, I started to realize I do have so many things, and why don't I appreciate them as much as I should? And she said, don't you realize everything that's happened? She said, God also sent me to help you. And I was like, what? Like I said, she doesn't tell you until like way later. And she's like, yeah, you were like a wreck. You lost all hope back when I met her. And it's true. That's actually why I married her, because she gave me some hope. And she was like, yeah, that's why I got you your first dog. I was like, why? She's like, because you could feel safe with it, to feel a bit of love for the first time in your life. And I didn't realize any of this. And she's like, yeah, but it didn't fully work, so we got another dog. That didn't work, so we got another one, 5 dogs later. And and then now, she didn't mention this about my daughter, but I gave this some thought. I'm like, I think my daughter too was kind of sent from God. Because I met my daughter on Christmas Day when she was 3 years old. She's now 11. I still remember the door opening to my apartment. I was living with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. And there was this little angel there. Funny how I say that, because I think she was, or is. And it's the most cutest little 3-year-old girl I ever seen in my life. And I was just like mesmerized, like, what is this? And my wife took me aside, and she said, I had to get her out of her house. She's a cousin of a cousin of a cousin, which, like, my wife is literally related to everyone in Acapulco. That's just how the culture is here in Mexico, and particularly in Acapulco. So she's a relative, which everyone is. And her father had just been killed in a car accident on Christmas Day. So, of course, a lot of people were at her house and all very upset. So my wife wanted to get her out of the house. So she brought her in my apartment. And I was like, what? Like, oh my God, like this is like horrible. And I looked over at the little girl and she was okay. She was kind of like, I was like, does she know? And my wife was like, yeah, kind of, but I don't know if she's really understands it or what. And I was like, okay. So I talked to the little girl and I go, so, and I kind of stupidly said, so what did you get for Christmas? And she kind of gave the, which basically meant nothing. And I was like, okay. Her father just died on Christmas Day, and she doesn't even have a Christmas present. So we went straight to Walmart and I bought her like the pinkest bike, little tricycle they had, and we went to the park and spent all day with her actually, which I would never have done with anyone, ever. Just so in my own world and so not connected to anything. And within a few hours, she was calling me Papa all the time. And she stayed with us that night. And the next day, she said in Spanish, hey, sit down. I got to ask you a question, but it's a serious question. So have a seat. And she's 3 years old. Her head was like this big. She's like in front of me, like this little head with these giant eyes. And I was like, what? What is going on? So I sit down and she goes, it's a very serious question. If you say yes, it's yes forever. And I don't know. And she said, don't be like those other guys out there, those machos. She's 3 years old. Don't be like those machos and say yes, but change your mind later. You can't. It's yes forever or no forever. And I was like, what's the question? She's like, I want to ask you, I have a hard time saying this without crying. But I'm getting better. I've told the story a few times now, so it's easier. She says, I want to ask you if you'll be my papa. And, you know, it's kind of like, it's one of those moments, like, the whole world just closes in. But to me, there was only one answer. Just, like, no was not an option. So I was like, yes. And then soon after, my wife told me she had another son that I didn't know about. So we still weren't married. We were still boyfriend, girlfriend. And he lived in Germany. And he was 5 at the time. And I was like, oh, wow, lots of things are changing for me here. So she actually went over to Germany to see him. And she went on Skype with me on Skype video. And I met him for the first time. And we just had this connection just from the very first second. And maybe it's just because he was so young. Maybe anyone who talked to him would have had this connection. But I was like, oh my God, this is the cutest little boy I've ever seen in my life. And he was so full of love and so full of interest. Like he was like so curious and happy to meet me on Skype video. I was like, whoa, this kid, wow. So she mentioned how there's problems with him and his dad and all this kind of stuff. I was like, well, bring him over here. So she did. So all of a sudden I got, I don't know how many dogs we had at the time. I think 3. And now 2 kids, all in the span of a few months, really. And so that led me, you know, so it was, and then I was going through this business stuff, and then it was going horrible, and I started drinking, and and I got married to my wife, and it was mostly, like, it was kind of mostly for the kids, because I could tell they're like, they didn't feel comfortable, like, oh, is he going to stay around, or what's going on, so, and I was just this mess still, so I was like, well, screw it, maybe getting married will make me feel more complete or fulfilled or whatever it is. So did that, then I had business problems, drank a lot. And then sort of, that was, you know, when I got really bad and I got quite suicidal. The whole reason I didn't, and the whole reason I committed to making changes was for my family. So in a way, they saved me. So then it's been the last 2 years, as I pointed out, getting better, a little bit worse, getting better, a little bit worse. Then this all happened last couple of days, and my wife's like, "You still don't get it, do you?" I was like, "What?" And she's like, "All of them, all 5 dogs, the 2 kids, they're all sent by God to help you." And I think I sort of got it in that moment. And she's like, "You're so blocked off. He's been trying to reach you for so long, but you got so much, you block everything off. You won't let anything near you." Which made me think more about my childhood. Why am I doing that? You know, all that kind of stuff. So I still think I gotta go deeper into my childhood and stuff. Come to some resolutions about that. You know, there was not a lot of love in my household. It was not even really like a loud thing. No emotions were allowed in my household, really. It just was not how it was. And you know, I think I gotta rectify that a little bit before I'll be totally better. But basically my wife explained it to me in a way that this is the part that I found just like, it kind of like, that's when everything just went, woo. She said, "Yeah, you're surrounded by angels. Your 5 dogs and your 2 kids are sent from God. And you didn't even realize the whole time. You didn't realize what was going on." And that's the moment when I was like, okay. And so last few days has been full of a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation. Like, I always appreciated them, right? Like, I love my kids, I love my dogs. I've said that 1,000 times. But I didn't fully realize how important and how amazing, and to really feel the gratitude that I have them all, and to really come to the, I don't know, the realization. Realization's a funny word. Real eyes. Most words are like that. It's hidden meanings and all this stuff. I didn't fully realize, you know, what life is or what it was all about. And that's where, you know, this kind of railroaded a bit of my whole talk about what life is, because in the meantime, I've kind of realized what's going on in my own life and what it really is and what the point of that is. And so it's been quite an amazing couple of days. And so I feel like a lot of that depression that was still left, even though there wasn't a lot, like I lost like 80% of it, most of that just kind of left after that. And it's kind of like this feeling of humbleness, gratitude, a bit of stupid feeling. A lot of people say this when they realize these things, like they have this kind of like, I was so stupid. But I know from what I've done the last few years to not beat myself up over it. That's the past. Just sort of appreciate it now. And so, like I said, it's just been a crazy couple of days of sort of like the next level of waking up. And I don't think I'm fully there yet. But I think I took a big, huge step in the last couple of days. I just feel this, like I was pretty good. Like I was like, you know, nothing can hurt me, that kind of stuff. You know, like I wasn't attached to the material things or even all the unimportant stuff. It wasn't a problem. Like I've really advanced quite a bit on ahead of most people on things like that. But I didn't fully realize. So the title of this video, I think, is going to be how I was the richest man in the world and never realized it. And it's not about money, because it's not. I had all of these riches all around me. Look where I live, and I was missing the connection, though, that there is a reason that I'm not here all alone. So we'll see how that affects me over the next few months, but I feel, Jerry, no. Jerry, Rango, no. Yeah. I feel like this has been like a huge step. So for all the people out there, if you've been feeling like me, you're missing stuff, I don't know what to tell you except for just do all the stuff I've been doing and have an open mind to these things. And if there's one thing I can kind of tell you is it seems like life will always send you what you need when you need it. But it might be like, it might leave it until like the last second. So you feel, it's that whole it's darkest before the dawn thing. Like it'll leave it until you have gotten to the very bottom and you are in so much pain or sadness or just even numbness that all of a sudden it'll just come. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. All these things, I don't know if they're all from the Bible or what. Obviously I got to look into a lot more of this stuff. But yeah, so it's been an amazing few days. I feel really happy right now. And then all this other stuff started happening. Like my body's been changing just in the last couple of days. It's like something unlocked. It's like this weight came off my chest. And all these great things are all just sort of flowing now. I don't know if it's all related, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if I wasn't allowing these things to happen. Or if a lot of this was tied up in actually your physical body. This is where the mind-body connection comes in, why yoga can be important and stuff like that. Because a lot of your trauma, a lot of your emotional issues can actually be in your physical body. And a part of getting them out is actually getting them out. Massage and yoga and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff I've learned in the last few months or a few years at the most. So pretty amazing. So I'll get back to what life's all about. I kind of got a new appreciation for it now. I don't know if it's changed a lot of my views, because you'll see when I get to that part that there's definitely God involved. Absolutely. And by the way, I was totally agnostic my entire life. I never even thought about God until 2 years ago when I started to change things. I know I used to get sick when you hear these things like, oh, God changed me. And it always seems to be people sort of like around my age. And I was like, oh, they've just given up on life. And now they're kind of like, well, I better believe in God or something. It's like, no, that's not what's going on. Anyway, I'll have so many more views on this now. But thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everything, actually. Yeah, you're all my angels. My angels, my big angel. My little angels. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Muy bien, Lara. Muy bien, Jerry. Muy bien, Rango. Muy bien, Lucy. Y muy bien, Bruce.